Hello and welcome back to Cloud and Web Developer. Today, following the set of videos that I've been making about GPT-2, today I want to demonstrate how you can easily take advantage of the GPT-2 OpenAI technology and use it in your own projects quite easily using a free API that is available from OpenAI. In past videos, we used the bigger models of OpenAI. One was deployed in an AWS S3 instance, and with that you were able to run any model you wanted. After that, we tried and successfully deployed GPT-2 as well, any model on your Mac OS X environment. And today we're gonna do GPT-2 on the API that they have for free. So to do this exercise, to follow along, the only thing you're gonna need is to have a VS Code installed, but as always, you can always use Sublime, you can use Atom, anything you want. But for this tutorial, if you want to follow along exactly, I suggest you install VS Code, which to me is the best text editor out there at the moment. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do, and as always, I always recommend to make a repository so you can start versioning, so you can start updating your projects, right? And so you have something easy to show to your potential employers, to your peers, to whomever you want. So I'm gonna go to repositories and I'm gonna make a new. And if you do not have a GitHub account, I strongly recommend you make one. It's not mandatory, but you should. Okay, I'm gonna call it so GPT-2 API YouTube tutorial. Let's copy that, put in the description. I'm gonna initialize readme create. Take a second to do that, and then I'm gonna copy this link. Perfect. And then with that, I'm gonna open a terminal, and what I normally do, let's clear this first, right? And I usually put all my projects here in this YouTube Cloud Dev. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type cd space, drag and drop this location where I want the repository to be created, and then I'm gonna type git clone and paste the path that we copied from GitHub a while ago. And it creates this folder right here. So right now it has nothing interesting in there except an empty readme. So what I'm gonna do is now this folder I'm gonna drag and drop to VS Code, and this is gonna open this folder in this text editor that I was recommending you 10 seconds ago. And for this video I might place this on a different desktop so I can go back and forth. Right, and once we're here, we're gonna create 3 files. I'm gonna create, as always, the index.html. I'm gonna create the style.css, and I'm gonna create script.js. Cool. So let's get started. Okay, so once you create an HTML file, I suggest that you close. Because if you can see, my live server is not available right now, so I'm just gonna close it once and then reopen it again. And as you can see, if you open this folder now, I have the 3 files that I just created right here. So let's just open it again, drag and drop. It takes 10 seconds the second time around that you open it. So I'm just gonna put it back in another desktop. Alright, so now I can go live. If I click go live, and this is an extension that you can use in VS Code, it immediately deploys it to your local host at this address right here. So right now it's an empty page, no surprise there. So let's go back to the coding and start typing something interesting. So I'm gonna show what it's gonna look right now. So what I'm gonna be able to do at the end of this tutorial is to have this nice looking website. It's very simple in general, but it is powerful because in here you have an H1 title. You're gonna have 2 text boxes. The upper one is where you're gonna create your text, your input, your prompt. As you know, GPT-2 generates text based on a prompt that you input. This button is gonna submit that text, and then the API is gonna do its thing. It's gonna generate a response, and we're gonna display that response here. All right, and I'm gonna explain step by step how to achieve that. So the first thing we need to do is to create a boilerplate, and I use the Emmet extension to create an HTML5 boilerplate, and with that I have pretty much everything that I need right off the bat. So you can put any title you want, put GPT-2 API page. And then I'm gonna link the files that I created. So I'm gonna link my style CSS right here, and I'm gonna link my JavaScript file as well. Perfect. Okay, now that that's done, we need to also link a script by OpenAI, which is the GPT-2. And to do that, I'm gonna write script src, and I'm gonna put this in the description, or you can go to the repository once it's done. So it's cdn deepai.org deepai.mean.js, and I'm gonna close the script. Okay, let's save that. Still, we shouldn't have much happening here. That's fine. And now we're gonna start showing things on the page. If you've seen me work before, you might notice I always put everything in between the center tag, because I find that way easier to center than with CSS when it's a very simple page. So inside here, we're gonna start adding our contents. So I'm gonna start with an H1, and you can put your title here, GPT-2 API text generator. And so you see that everything is being updated on the fly. As soon as I save, you should be able to see the H1 right here. Cool. So we are communicating successfully with the browser. Now, I'm gonna add the first text area. So text area, and I'm gonna have an ID. It's gonna call my text, and then I'm gonna name it my text area, and it's gonna have rows. I'm gonna put at 5. It's gonna be a smaller area. Calls, I'm gonna put 100, and then it can have a placeholder, a placeholder text if you want. This is not mandatory, but I like to make it more, you know, lively, if you will. Insert here your text, ... And that should be fine for now. So I'm gonna close the text area tag. And this is looking a little bit messy, so what I do as well, you can indent here every attribute, so it's a little bit easier to read. Okay, and close the text area. And now if I save, I have a text area here. It's probably a little bit big for the resolution. That's fine. Okay, let's move on. And then we had a button in the finished version of this. So I'm going to put a button, and it's going to have an ID of submit button. And then it's going to call a function in onClick. It's going to call a function that we will be implementing shortly. Submit text, parentheses, and I'm going to close that. And it's going to have a caption of submit text to GPT-2. Right, save that. Let's have a look. Perfect. We have a button. Great. And let's keep going. So now we have the next. I'm going to put a paragraph in between them. So make sure that they are not just next to each other, these elements. All right. And then another text area, which is where we're going to display the generated text area. And this one is going to be called with an ID of my text 2. And I'm going to do the same name equals my text area 2. And I just noticed I made a typo here. I'm missing the equal sign. Great. Name rows. This one is going to have 20 rows. This is completely arbitrary. It's up to you guys, but this is what I noticed. It looks all right. 100 calls. Placeholder equals. Let's see. The output goes here. ... Okay, and we can close the tag. I'm gonna put it here, right? And just to be sure it's gonna look all right, I'm gonna put another P here, a paragraph. And now we have essentially all the elements you need for this exercise. So the H1, the first text box right here. There's a second one here, the output goes here, and the button that is not doing anything at the moment. Cool. Okay, so now that we have done this, now we can move on to the JavaScript portion of this tutorial. So open your script.js, and I'm gonna type let text equals document get element by ID, and this one is gonna grab my text, which is the input, the prompt, and then we're gonna have the output. We're gonna link it to the element in the document, call my text2. Okay, so we have now our variables. I'm gonna initialize the value of both at nothing, and then output dot value equals nothing. Okay, and now I'm gonna implement the function that we are gonna be calling with the button every time you click it, and it was called submit text. And this is where the magic is gonna happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is that at this point, when you click the button, you assume that the user already typed or copy pasted some text that they wanna use as a seed, as a prompt. So what I'm gonna do is text is gonna be equals to document dot get element by ID my text dot value. This is gonna grab the text in the text area. And if you want to have console logs to see if it's working, you can put your console.log, and you can call it my prompt is comma text. This is not mandatory, of course. It's just for you to, you know, get used to see what happens in the console as well. And then output dot value, I'm gonna change it to please wait. And this is because it takes about a minute for the API to respond to your request. So while that's happening, I don't want it just to not happen anything on the screen. You want the UI UX to be as good as possible, even though it's a very simple project. By changing the output text to please wait ... you are giving an instruction to the user to be patient, because, you know, it'll take a little bit. So a little thing, but, you know, I think it goes a long way. And then from here, this is coming from the deepai website. So this is how you're gonna connect to their API. So I'm gonna type deepai.setApiKey, and the API key, I have it in my notepad, which is this one. Copy paste, and remember, this is either you can find it in the OpenAI website, or you can go to the repository, or I might even just put it in the description of this video, because you will definitely need this information and this key. Right, and then we're gonna do some asynchronous JavaScript. Every time we call an API, it's important to use asynchronous functions. So asynchronous function. Put response equals await deepai.call standard API, and it's called text generator. Okay, remember, this is coming from the instructions in OpenAI. So this is what I tested to work, and you need to send some text, and our case is called text, our variable here. So text and comma, close that, semicolon. And if you want to troubleshoot or help you a little bit more using the console, you can await to console log the response as well. So you want to put it on the text area, but also you can put it in the console for yourself as a developer to see how's it look. Response, and then the output. So the output, remember, is the text area where the output is displayed. So output dot value is gonna be equals to resp dot output. Okay, so hopefully that'll work. And then that close that, parentheses, close that. And I think this is pretty much it. So hopefully I didn't misspell anything. Deep AI. And the reason this is called, this actually works, or is going to work, is because we're calling this library from here, from deepai. So don't forget to add that in your HTML. Right, so let's give it a go. So now you can see I'm gonna reload just to make sure I'm in the latest version of it. Insert your text. Let's grab some text from this. I see the 3 little pigs text. It can be a 1 word to a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. The more information you send, I find the response tend to be better. So let's put a full paragraph that we grabbed from the internet. I'm gonna submit, and this should change. Okay, it's changing to please wait. And we are looking at like a minute wait time. So I'm just gonna cut, and I'm gonna come back when this is done. Okay, there's an error here. I saw in the console that I wrote deep API is deep AI. So let's save that, and let's try again. And I saw that in my console. So let's paste once again, submit. So another little typo I made here. Then I need a colon. So let's save that. So hopefully third time's a charm. Paste, submit. Okay, excellent. It worked. So we can see it in the console. It is here, the output. And most importantly, we can see it here in our output text area. So based on our prompt, we have now a few paragraphs of text. And the first pig was very lazy. He didn't work at all. So this is our prompt, and it ends here. Okay, this is new. The other pig got lucky, and he learned a few tricks that helped him. He started to make his house big enough to have 2 bedrooms and an attic full of little toys. In addition, he set up a room in his home with lots of different toys, a table for playing time, a video game room, and other several rooms. Wow, this pig was into video games. So I like this guy. Guys, so this is really it. This is the core logic of this project. And so if you feel it's a little bit, bare bones, like the CSS, like the front end is not quite beautiful, let's work a little bit on the CSS. But so far, this is the code that you need for the API to work based on your prompt. So I'm gonna go to your style CSS, and then why not, let's upload it to AWS S3 so you can actually host this on a live website, on a live link that you can share and show to your friends and potential employers. So let's start with the body. I wanna put the background color to silver, and then we have an H1, which is our title, and this one's gonna be color, let's put dark blue. Okay, and then we have a thing called my text, text area called my text is an ID, and then we're gonna have border 1px solid, and then maybe let's put it blue. Okay, and then border radius is gonna be 10px. Let's check that. Okay, that's working. That changed the background, and it rounded the corners. It put a blue line along it. Things looks a lot better now. And let's do something similar with my text too. So border 1px solid, and we can put it like brown, just a little bit different. And border radius is gonna be also 10px. Save. Cool. All right, looks a little bit better. And our button is a little bit, too generic. And there is a page that I like that has free CSS for buttons, and it's called Button Generation. Best CSS Button Generation. Let me see. Best CSS Button Generator. Oh, there is in my here. Cool. So in here it's very easy because now you can just choose which kind of button you want. And I'm gonna choose this one, light red, and you can get the code. And this one is not only the style for the button itself, but also the pseudo classes that includes the button hover and on active. So I'm gonna copy the whole thing just here, my button. I'm gonna ignore this because it's already in our code. And I'm gonna paste. And now my button is not called my button in our case. It's called ID submit button. So I just have to change that. It's called submit button, and I'm gonna put the ID. Okay. And I need to delete this rogue dot that escaped. Let's save that. See if it worked. It did. All right. So it looks a little bit better. And if you want to be even more, stylish here, I have seen, or I have used in the past, a thing called a bubbly BG. And I'm just going to leave this code. This is just this snippet here that adds you like a bubble background, which is really cool. And it's really easy to use. You just put it in your index somewhere under the body tag. Okay, so you can check it out under this link. There's ways that you can modify these parameters, and it makes it look completely different. So it's really cool. Because by saving that, check out how much it's going to change our project. Look, it has this nice background. It has some animations going on. It has a gradient. It looks a lot better than it was before. All right, so this should still work. This should still work with all the nice CSS we just added. Submit that, and while that's happening, I'm gonna show you how to upload these to your S3. Because it's a static website. It's not a framework that we're using React or anything like that. So the sunshine is just busting in my room at the moment. Sorry, it looks a little bit white. Doesn't matter. All right, so I go into my AWS management console. Remember, you can make a free account with AWS, but you do need a credit card. I'm gonna put a link at the bottom. If you do not have an AWS account, you should make one and practice with that. It's really useful as a developer. I'm gonna go to S3 panel. I'm gonna create a bucket. I'm gonna call it GPT-2 API due tutorial. Bucket name, copy. I want to leave that as default. Continue. The important things that I need is not here. Continue. I need to unblock all public access because I want public access. I want it to be a website. So grant. Okay, so it doesn't matter. I just need to acknowledge that I am aware that this could end up in people using my, not using, like accessing my bucket, which is what I want. Next. And this is not costing me really a cent, because unless you have a bunch of traffic, you might end up incurring some charges, but I don't expect that to be the case. And then I have a bunch of buckets. I'm just gonna look for the one I just made, which is this one, and it's gonna be empty. So now what I need to do is upload the files that we created, and this is the folder where I created all my files. And I really just need to upload these three: the index, the script.js, and the style CSS. So I'm gonna drag and drop, and I'm gonna do next, and I'm gonna grant read access to these objects, because again, you want them to be able to read from the internet. Leave it at standard. Next, upload, and then you go to properties, static website hosting. You click on it, and you click on use this bucket to host a website. And then in here we're going to type index.html, which is your landing page. Save that, and then once you save that, click on this once again, static website hosting, and now you have this link here, which is the live link to our project. And as you can see, it is now hosted online. Hopefully it still works. So let's copy paste the second paragraph for the 3 little pigs. So this is my local host. It still works. It sends us this back after this should still work. This should still work with the nice CSS. Now let's go to our S3 live link. I'm gonna paste the paragraph. I'm gonna submit. Let's wait a minute. I'll be back when this is done. All right, I'm back and it worked. We got the response from the server. So it copies what we added as a prompt till wins here. So from here is all new text. The other pig got hot and a little scared. The following day, my neighbor was picked up by the police and called me and the other little pig. What I think is that this API is not using the biggest model, because that would take probably longer and it needs a lot more computing time. So for a free API, that might not be a good idea financially for them, even though it would be cool. But if you do need the larger model for better text, you can follow my tutorials so you can post the larger model on an EC2 instance in AWS, or even on your own Mac OS X, or even your Windows. It's pretty much the same process. And you can use your own computer to generate the text. Okay, but for today, we're gonna use their API. This is free, and now that you have captured the text, you can do whatever you want with it. I co-created this website called deepai.setApiKey. And essentially what we did is that you co-create stories with other people. So you put a prompt and then you take orders in which you arrive to the story. You can add an entry, and then there's a Storyfy app bot that essentially is GPT-2 that reads the previous entry and adds an entry itself. And so the stories get generated. So this is more or less the idea that was behind this. Now you can use this API to do something similar. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, comment, and share. Remember to follow me on my social links and social media right here. Check their other videos if you're interested in GPT-2, AI, machine learning, web development. We're going to be covering here in all these videos. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.